That's a racist.
This is not what I voted for.
Get those videos out there. Abuela's head on the linoleum. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Using that term is so damaging.
The progressives are always trying to progress, and they're the ones that are retarding progression because they're progressing us towards retardation. All right, guys, how you doing? I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is December 2nd, 2025. We are live streaming on Rumble, on YouTube, on Locals. Post-game show, rubinreport.locals.com. Subscribe, all that stuff. Do want to quickly note something up top for those of you that are keen observers of the Rubin Report. If you thought that my demeanor was a little off for the last 6 or so minutes of yesterday's live show, you might be right. So the studio here is built in my house. We have a 3-bay garage. It's about a bay and a half is the studio here. And we're doing some electrostatic painting outside on the garage doors and on the walls out there. And they were painting. So this is actually on the other side of this is the garage door there. And they started painting while we were in studio. And about halfway through the show, there were insane fumes in here. And you know when you're in a situation like that, you start smelling something, but almost your brain doesn't kind of connect it to what's going on. And for the last 10 minutes of the show, I was seriously loopy. Connor was unconscious. It's a miracle the thing even went out to the internet. We've lost Phoenix, and we are looking for a new executive producer right now, and Joseph's laying in the corner over there. So there is a bit of a scent here today, and we're just gonna plow through and see what happens. But if I lose my train of thought in the middle of this, you will fully know why. It is because we are, and it's nice that I pay 100% health insurance, by the way, for you good people. So if there are any problems, tingling in the fingers or whatever. Okay, let's do a show. A lot going on, usual craziness, little of everything. We're trying to defend the borders, and a bunch of Democrats don't want us to do that. So let's start right there. The big story of the last couple of days is that we are blowing up Venezuelan drug trafficking ships that are coming from Venezuela, bringing drugs, trying to get into America. We've decided to blow up these ships. Now, this is an easy, obvious thing. It is a type of, I think you could say, low-grade warfare. It's not like shooting a rocket from Venezuela into Florida, right? But it is a type of warfare if you try to poison a population of another country. And we've just had enough of it. And we've shown you some videos of this over the last couple of weeks that we're just blowing up these ships, right? And now there's a whole fracas about this. Is the president allowed to do it? And what do I always say? The Democrats are always on the side of the wrong people. And Trump is a master at exposing that, right? He takes an issue that's an 80-20 kind of obvious gut issue. He does the right thing. He gets them to go crazy and defend all the bad people, and it makes the Democrats look even stupider. So let's back up and jump to Jesse Waters for a moment. Last night, Trump has officially ordered U.S. warships to now surround Venezuela. That is an escalation over just blowing up these ships that are en route to our shores.
Fox News alert, it is Judgment Day. Sources say Maduro's been praying to Jesus. That's the narco-terrorist, socialist dictator who took over for Hugo Chavez in Venezuela and keeps flooding American streets with migrants, gangs, and cocaine. 11 U.S. warships, including our largest carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, are now in the Caribbean. Venezuela is surrounded. The strike group is waiting on orders from the commander-in-chief, as the president's holding high-level meetings at the White House, calculating our next move against the narco state. The choice is Maduro's. Trump's giving him an ultimatum: abdicate power or else. After Trump's phone call with the dictator, that's the best offer.
Okay, so things are a-moving. Now, let me take what I think is a clear America first position on this. I don't want adventurous wars. I don't like regime change or any of those things. We did those things for years, largely did not work out well. However, what is America first is defending our borders. Not only has Donald Trump closed the border and stopped illegal immigration, but a secondary thing that you might want to do if you're defending your borders is make sure that whoever can leak through the border one way or another isn't bringing drugs that will literally kill your citizens. And you need only go to San Francisco or Portland or Seattle or New York, et cetera, virtually all blue cities, as you know, because they're sanctuary cities. They have lower They have lower laws as it relates to crime and all of the rest of it. It is a type of warfare. So Trump he's threatening. He's saying, hey, we're here. It's not just that we're going to blow up the boats. We might do something a little worse than that. It is called leverage and negotiation. It is called peace through strength. Here's Donald Trump on the Twitter machine. To all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So obviously this thing is escalating. I think that you can have an honest debate about what we should do. I personally don't have a problem with Donald Trump doing this. Again, I'm always interested in, what am I always interested in? I'm always interested in narrative and signal. And what is the signal Donald Trump is sending to the world? Again, we haven't bombed Venezuela or anything else. We've blown up a couple boats with bad guys with fentanyl and cocaine and other drugs on those ships. The signal he is sending is no more of this stuff. So the ships and the aircraft carriers, which we'll show you right now. Why don't we show a little video of this, about 20 seconds. I mean, you can see these are big time ships. I had a ship like that from G.I. Joe back in 1984. This is serious stuff. You got Duke, you got Lady J. Everybody's on these ships doing their thing. And the signal that we are sending is stop messing with us. Another signal we have sent over the last couple of months is that we changed the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War. And Pete Hegseth, who is heading up the Department of War right now, he put this up on X. This is great for your Christmas wish list. And obviously this is not a real book, although actually I would buy this book. It's a classic Franklin story. Franklin targets narco-terrorists, and there is Turtle Franklin with a bazooka blowing up the narco-terrorists. And those people on the boats, by the way, they have, as you can see, they have bundles of things, probably drugs. They're not the nicest people. They have weapons. And we shouldn't be that concerned, right? Like, just think about it this way. If a boat from any country in the world, pick your country, everyone watching this, pick a country in the world. A boat from that country is speeding towards America, right? And it hasn't been given clearance to come to America. It doesn't have a port to show up and it hasn't talked to us about coming. I'm pretty sure we're allowed to do what we got to do, right? They are bringing enough fentanyl into our country to probably kill an entire country, right? Like, it's crazy stuff. Fentanyl, these kids that are doing this, they don't realize what they're doing. They think they're buying, weed from some guy on the corner and it's laced with fentanyl. They take one puff and they're dead, right? This is a massive, massive epidemic. But the meta-narrative around all this is what I said up top. Trump is really good at kind of getting things right. People don't want drug dealers sending boats into America. Most people kind of just get that. You just get that. And then what does it cause the Democrats to do? Always defend the bad guy. So here is Chuck Schumer. I can't believe he's still around. I didn't know he has a job still, this Chuck guy. The Washington Post reported that Secretary Hegseth gave a directive to leave no survivors on the first alleged drug boat struck by U.S. forces. The Department of Defense has the tapes that show exactly what happened during these strikes, and Hegseth has an obligation to release those tapes. Now, look, I don't know what Hegseth's obligation is. I actually don't know what the legal obligation of the head of the Department of War is to release videotape or not. Whether Schumer is saying something truer there or not, that Hegseth said leave no survivors. Now, that would be interesting. It would be the signal again, right? What would be the signal you would be sending? If you're someone in Venezuela, I'm going to bring some fentanyl over to America. I'm going to hop in a boat. You want to come with me? Let's get going. And then, and then your friend comes up to you, and he said, his name is Jose, and he says, listen, it turns out that yesterday a bunch of our other friends went on a boat, and they left no survivors. So maybe I'm not going to go do that. That's what the signal is all about. But the Democrats just don't get it. They're much more interested in keeping the guy who didn't get fully killed in the first strike on the boat alive, rather than keeping American kids alive. It's not much more complex than that. Here's some more from Fox. The White House confirmed it defended conducting a second strike against alleged drug smugglers in the Caribbean in September, amid the Trump administration's crusade targeting the influx of drugs into the U.S. The White House's statement comes after the Washington Post reported Friday that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth verbally ordered that a September 2nd attack kill everyone on board the alleged drug boat, drawing scrutiny from lawmakers who are requesting additional oversight into the strikes. The Post reported reported that a second strike was conducted to take out the remaining survivors on the boat. Again, I think that, look, joking aside, or I'm being a little over the top here, there's probably some debate to be had about the rules of engagement, and we'll get to that in just a second. You know what I mean? The boat's coming, you blow up the boat, you eliminate the drugs, you kill a couple of people, and let's say there's some guys that are just swimming in the ocean right now. We can have a debate about what you do with those guys. The easy version, again, to the signal is you guys are narco terrorists. You're drug traffickers like you don't deserve to live. You are doing something that is going to kill American citizens. So I have a lot of sympathy for it, but I think we can have some debate about, okay, if we've blown up the boat already and there's a couple people there, should we, there might be an intelligence reason we want to pick up those guys and find out some information. So there is something to discuss around that. But again, of course, the Democrats are just freaking out because we're killing people. We're killing people who are trying to kill our kids. Here's Karoline Leavitt on that.
What law is it that allows no survivors?
The strike conducted on September 2nd was conducted in self-defense to protect Americans in vital United States interests. The strike was conducted in international waters and in accordance with the law of armed conflict. And I would just add one more point to remind the American public why these lethal strikes are taking place. Because this administration has designated these narco-terrorists as foreign terrorist organizations. The president has a right to take them out if they are threatening the United States of America and if they are bringing illegal narcotics that are killing our citizens at a record rate, which is what they are doing. And under the previous administration, there was enough fentanyl trafficked into our country to kill every American man, woman, and child many times over.
Okay, so I think you can see why I view this as just like a very simple 80-20 issue. Nobody wants their kid to just die of a drug overdose just like that. People have seen the decay of our cities. The people, what do they call it? The heroin stoop or the fentanyl stoop? What's that thing when people are just like this? There's some term that they call it. And these people, there's a trend actually, I think it's coming out of Japan right now, where the kids go into the subway and they pretend that they're Americans and they just pretend that they're like this on drugs because that's how bad the problem is here. So again, we can have some debate, which is sort of what the question was about, in terms of the legality of a second strike or leaving no survivors. Personally, I don't have a problem with it. And again, imagine if a speedboat with a bunch of drugs or just freaking cassette players left America and was speeding towards, pick a country, Turkey, Caracas, it doesn't matter. They'd probably just blow it up and they wouldn't give a shit about who was on that boat. Like, countries have borders for a reason. Anyway, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who, as I keep saying, there's a lot of all-stars in this administration and in this cabinet, but he, I think, has become the voted in by the fans all-star here because he's just doing a great bang-up job. I think we played you this video about 10 days ago, but here he is once again explaining why we are doing this and that we have every right to defend ourselves and people should stop talking shit about us.
The United States is under attack from organized criminal narco-terrorists in our hemisphere, and the president is responding in the defense of our country. I do find it interesting that all these countries want us to send, and supply, for example, nuclear-capable Tomahawk missiles to defend Europe. But when the United States positions aircraft carriers in our hemisphere where we live, somehow that's a problem. So I would say that the United States is, and this president has made very clear, his job is to protect the United States from threats against the United States, and that is what he's doing in this operation.
All right, so you can see he is just clear. He is just ready for this job. He was supposed to be Secretary of State. Who knows where his future will go, but he's just communicating what it's not just American values. He's communicating what America stands for in the world right now. And we are a serious country again. We were an unserious country for 4 years, led by a man with dementia and an auto pen, and God knows who else was pulling those strings there. And as Leavitt just pointed out, in those 4 years, they brought in enough fentanyl to kill every single American, and we are just not going to do that anymore. And we're also not going to be lectured by a bunch of countries that don't do jack shit as Americans die. It's as simple as that. We'll have more on that in just a second, but first, Rumble Premium. If you really want to get the most out of Rumble, upgrade to Rumble Premium. With Premium, you'll get everything ad-free and distraction-free, plus access to creators who actually stand for something. If you want to support a platform that's genuinely built on free speech and not just talking about it, this is the way. Go to rumble.com/premium/Rubin. That's rumble.com/premium/Rubin for 10% off an annual membership. Join the movement. All right, so as the Democrats side with the bad guys, they were just trying to bring over a little fentanyl. Don't kill the other guy on the boat. Throw him a life raft. It's not just the Democrats that do it. It's also their allies in the media. So now we will go to We haven't played a clip from these ladies in a while. Yes, we're going to The View, and Sunny Hostin, the most racist, hateful person on all of your television set. Here she is implying that Pete Hegseth is committing war crimes by blowing up boats that are bringing fentanyl into America.
I can't speak to the law of it. I don't know, I'm not a geopolitical expert, but in terms of the law of it, you're right, Sarah. That is why those Army vets explained, do not follow, you do not have to follow illegal orders. You know why? Because if this is deemed to have been war crimes, which by all accounts right now, there are 7 sources that said Pete Hegseth did say kill them all, even after there were 2 survivors, which you're supposed to do under international law. You are supposed to take those fighters as war criminals, prisoners of war, and you're supposed to give them refuge, and you're supposed to take care of them, and then you are supposed to put them into a court of law.
This is so absurd. This notion, for some reason, this one drives me more crazy than almost anything right now. This thing that we keep hearing, we're hearing it a ton from moron Zamboni in New York City, and now we're hearing it from international law. International law is not a thing. It is like a unicorn, right? Like, it's just not a thing. We are bound by the laws of the United States. If you are watching this in the United States and you are a legal citizen of the United States, there is no international law that governs your life. The laws of the United States of America govern your life. Donald Trump has every right to defend the United States as he sees fit. Now, it's interesting. She's also admitting, she's calling them international fighters. So she's admitting that these people are doing some pretty terrible things. And again, we can have some debate as to what our SOP, what our standard operating procedure should be in the military in a situation like this. I think you can make that argument and also make the argument that I made earlier, which is that we're sending a signal, like we're going to blow up the boat and kill the other guys. We're going to do that a couple times because hopefully the signal is sent, and then we don't have to do that shit again. But once again, this is just Democrats and their media friends, comrades, I should say, just defending the indefensible. Why don't you? Here, I'll give you a hint, Sunny Hostin, for tomorrow's show. Sunny, on tomorrow's show, when they're telling you what to say, why don't you say, you know what, I'm not going to do the notes of the things that you hand me to say. I'm always looking down and reading things instead of telling you what's going on in my mind. How about we do a whole segment today on The View about all of the kids who have died of fentanyl? And let's do a segment the next day after that about where the fentanyl came from. But you don't want to do that, and I wonder why, Sunny Hostin. Here is White House spokesman Stephen Miller talking about Nicolas Maduro and what is going on in Venezuela.
President of Colombia is saying that Cartel of the Suns does not exist. What can you answer, and which message do you send to people in Venezuela after this indictment of Nicolas Maduro?
Well, as you know, and thank you for bringing it up, Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker. He's indicted in federal court. He's a fugitive from justice in America. As I think you're also aware, there's a $50 million reward for the return of Nicolas Maduro. Not just him, his henchmen have also been indicted. So it is a drug cartel that is running Venezuela.
Okay. It's a drug cartel that's running Venezuela. Is that true or false? By every estimation, that is true, right? Again, nobody, even Sunny Hostin and Chuck Schumer and the rest of these ding-dongs, I don't think anyone's making the argument that they're just sending the boats over. These are fun boats. These are boats that have little ropes attached to them, and people are, on their little ships, and they're just having a blast, going over the big waves and jumping and everything. No, they are bringing drugs. This is a problem, and we are not going to take this crap anymore. By the way, earlier I mentioned that they're doing this thing in Japan. They go into the subway and they do this. It's called the Fent Fold because it's the fentanyl fold. Do we have any pictures? Yeah, this is, well, that's not a Japanese guy, but these are real. So this is what Sunny Hostin doesn't care about. This is what Chuck Schumer doesn't care about. This is what moron Zamboni doesn't care about, and the rest. They don't mind that drugs end up on our streets. I know we can be sort of glib and dismissive when you see these pictures. These are human beings. These are someone's children. These are maybe someone's parent or brother or wife, and they have destroyed lives. And for some reason, you guys don't care about that, and you're only pissed that some secondary guy on a boat that we blew up who was bringing the drugs might drown. Think about that. Interestingly, from Polymarket, in December, they polled people as when Maduro will be out by, as the pressure now, right? We've got these war carriers and warships getting close to Venezuela, and Trump's talking about the airspace and everything out. So 20% of people think that he will be out by the end of this year, December 31st, 2025. But look at that. That jumps, it more than doubles to 47% by March. So something... Polymarket, that's just basically, it's not scientific per se, it's following the trends of what people think, but it does seem like this is not going to end well for Mr. Maduro. But let's go back to the Democrats, because again, they cannot control themselves. So the big story last week was that a bunch of Democrats created one of these ridiculous commercials where they were saying, if you're in the current member of the service, you don't have to follow illegal orders. And they never said what the illegal orders are. And when I showed you the video, I said it's interesting because maybe they should have mentioned what they were, because all the service member aren't lawyers. Why don't you make their jobs a little bit easier? And then, of course, subsequently, a bunch of them, Slotkin and Mark Kelly, went on TV shows over the weekend, were asked what were the illegal orders, and had nothing. They had literally nothing to say. Slotkin was like, well, there could be some things in the future. That's called pre-crime. That was from Minority Report. It's not a real thing. Great movie. Tom Cruise, Everybody Runs. Here's Senator Mark Kelly. He's all over this thing, going after Hegseth, implying that he's unqualified, which is completely absurd, and a bit more go.
This guy is so unqualified for the job. I mean, think about this. He runs around on a stage talking about lethality and warrior ethos and killing people. We have the most competent, capable military this planet has ever seen by far. To do really hard jobs, let me give you all the tools you need to do something that often is an impossible mission. And instead, he runs around on a stage like he's a 12-year-old playing Army. And it is ridiculous. It is embarrassing.
Mark Kelly, I don't think you are like a completely insane leftist lunatic that hates America like some of these other Democrats. I don't think you are, but for some reason, you're being dragged into this thing, and you might want to take stock of that. You're also in Arizona, a place that is not as radically blue, so you might want to watch out for your own career. But what are you talking about? The Secretary of Defense, as we used to call it, Secretary of War, him talking about our lethality of our military, that's good. Talking about the warrior ethos, that's great. Talking about killing people, he's not saying randomly kill people. He wants people to be afraid of America again. That's how you garner respect in the world. It's the most basic peace through strength. What should we do? We should all, would you prefer it the way we had it before, which is that a bunch of men in dresses are going to be up there like, don't bother us, please. That doesn't work. Please don't bother us. Where's my brooch? Anyway, here's a bit more of Senator Mark Kelly with Jake Tapper. Where's my brooch?
Once the ship starts sinking and there are survivors, I mean, the Washington Post says they were clinging to the wreckage, but whatever, there are survivors. We know there were survivors. Are you allowed to then attack the survivors?
Absolutely not. I sunk a OSA-2 missile patrol boat. It was in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. Polnaki troop carrier in the Persian Gulf during the day, getting shot at there were 2 ships. One of them was shooting at us. No, you don't do that. Everybody knows that. That is against the Geneva Conventions.
Admiral Mitch Bradley acted, quote, well within his authority and the law. You disagree?
Well, the White House is going to have their story. Their story changes all the time. I hope that we find out more information that demonstrates that, maybe it's hard to think that this is possible, but maybe exactly what is being told here is not true, because I really care about our members of the military.
How about caring about American citizens who are dying of fentanyl? Am I being very cold today? I don't think so. I care more about Americans than I do about the drug trafficker who's on the boat that blows up. His buddy is dead and he's swimming for his life, but he was trying to bring fentanyl over. I don't care that much about that guy. So I would say there's 3 things here, right? There's the ethical issue, right? So there is some ethical issue around what do you do on this sort of second strike, leave nobody alive. We've already addressed that ethical issue. Then there is a legal issue, but again, I don't think it's an international law issue. It's an American legal issue that we can discuss. But I would say what envelopes both of those is the signal issue, and the signal issue is stop screwing with us. So Jake, I would say next time you bring Kelly on, ask him more about the fentanyl crisis in America. Ask him if it's affected him at all. Actually, it's quite big in Arizona. Maybe do a little of that. And why do you have so much sympathy for some guy that was trying to kill Americans, which is exactly what they were doing? Let's talk about Morgan & Morgan for a minute, and then we will jump over to New York City, where the gangs have returned. If you've ever been seriously hurt in an accident, your injury could actually be worth millions, and most people have no idea. Insurance companies love to lowball claims, offering way less than what you deserve. That's why there's Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm with over 1,000 attorneys across 50 states. They've been fighting for people for more than 30 years, and they don't settle for lowball offers. Just recently, they won $12 million in Florida, $26 million in Philadelphia, and $6.8 million in New York, all way above what insurance companies offered. And the best part, it's completely free unless you win. No upfront costs, no hidden fees. It takes only a couple minutes to see if you have a case. Did you know you can start a claim with America's largest injury law firm in just one click? It's super easy. Just go to forthepeople.com/Rubin or click the link in the description and pin comment. Have you guys ever heard of New York City? It was once the greatest city in the history of the world. It was once the home of capitalism. It represented everything that was good about America. It was actually the place where so many legal immigrants came through to make their lives better for themselves and their ancestors, and it all kind of worked. Well, it's soon turning into a third world shithole. It's had a lot of problems over the last couple of years. It's been on a slow decline. It's about to get on a much steeper decline. And Zohran, moron Zamboni, hasn't even taken office yet. He's about to in a couple weeks. But in preparation for the communist takeover of New York City, Tren de Aragua, one of my favorite transnational terrorist organizations, gangs, they are back in New York City.
The NYPD says these are suspected members of the ruthless Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, which has been infiltrating the U.S. for the last 2 years.
Then, when you fast forward, you see the same individuals where? In Times Square. So that's our concern.
The NYPD says Tren de Aragua has been making it over the border with the migrant influx and is getting established in New York.
What we do see is they are trying to grow.
The gang has gone from petty crimes like shoplifting and stealing cell phones and jewelry to all-out shootouts in the streets.
Good luck, New York. Good luck. So this guy's not even in charge yet. The gangs have been coming here for 2 years. We know they were coming in illegally. We know the degradation of the New York City Police Department. We know that they are allowing all sorts of criminality. We know about the rotating cast of characters that come in and out of jails. We know about the amount of people that moron Zamboni wants to let out of jail. So now you let some of these criminals out of jails. You've already got, there is such a freaking toxic mess that is about to descend onto that great city. Like, we're going to need the Ghostbusters. It's going to be like Ghostbusters 2. The hate and the pink ooze is going to start seeping through the cement, and we are going to need the Ghostbusters. How did that one end? They played that song in the Statue of Liberty. Like, they're going to have to do some crazy shit. That's the point. But nobody's coming. Nobody's coming to save you. And if you are saying you must leave New York City, and you must leave now, and this is all directly connected to everything that that Biden and the auto pen did, and Trump trying to clean it up. And that is why they hate Trump. So now let's jump over to CNN. We're going to show you the fun bumper too, because here's Scott Jennings trying to help the less than bright Abby Phillips and her panel.
Over half of Americans think that the deportation process thus far in the Trump administration has been mostly unfair. That's 53%. And then 51% say that ISIS tactics have gone too far. So to Nayib's point,
35 and 12 is 47. That's very close. 51 and 47 is a very close number, Abby.
Okay. Yeah, but it's also math. 51 is a larger number than 47.
Okay.
So
and
it's down from 7.
I'm just saying, you're making this out like everybody's upset about it. It's pretty much a 50-50 issue, and that's fine. But some people think he hasn't gone far enough.
Right. Okay. So you get it. And we've played you these videos where Abby Phillip is always saying she's trying to break conservatives out of her bubble. And it's like out of their bubble. And it's like she's the one in the bubble. Pull the numbers up again, because Scott just did some basic math there. Right? Like, you're close to 50-50 on this. Now, again, first off, all of these polls, you can see there's a 3.2% margin of error. You're already at 50-50, basically. But the broader point about all of this is Donald Trump doing anything right now that he didn't promise to do? And the answer to that is obviously no. This is what he has been talking about for 10 years and largely could not accomplish in his first term, where he was hampered for a million reasons and then COVID and everything else. He's doing exactly what he promised. Now, it might be that there are some people, even some who voted for Donald Trump, who are like, you know what, there's a few too many people getting caught up in this, right? Like, I didn't intend my housekeeper to get caught up in this. Now, whether they're abandoning Trump is a different issue. And as I brought up yesterday, you know, they keep playing on CNN, all these two-time Trump voters are abandoning Trump. And there's just no evidence of that, right? He has 87% approval within the GOP. And it's like, okay, if you don't like Trump, where are you going? Where are you going anyway? Okay, you're going to become a Democrat? Good luck with that. But it is possible that some people think it's gone a bit too far. But I think on the previous panel there, it said something like 13% think it hasn't even gone far enough. And I think you absolutely can make an argument that we need to escalate this because we're rolling into a midterm election and Trump eventually will be a lame duck and will be hampered even further. So it seems to me the administration's doing the right thing. And I think the messaging is going to get a little stronger on this as we roll into midterms, because I do think this is a winning message. Listen to this from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. I just met with the president. I am recommending a full travel ban on every damn country that's been flooding our nation with killers, leeches, and entitlement junkies. Our forefathers built this nation on blood, sweat, and the unyielding love of freedom, not for foreign invaders to slaughter our heroes, suck dry our hard-earned tax dollars, or snatch benefits owed to Americans. We don't want them, not one. I mean, that is some serious, freaking straightforward, you might argue over the top language. But in the midst of what is happening with the Democrat Party, where there is a party that is wildly anti-America, that is wildly anti-capitalism, that does not like the founding of our country, to the backdrop of 20 plus million people who have come in, to all of the institutions that have failed us and taught all our kids the wrong things. As I said yesterday, when your house is burning down, you don't just invite a zillion other people to be part of it, right? You might want to start cleaning things up, get the fire extinguisher. We'll fix this room up first, see if we can make sure our family members all haven't burned, blah, 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 blah. This is Donald Trump who retruthed that over on Truth. So, no. Sorry, this is another thing. So Trump on Truth wrote, welcome to Minnesota. Great job, Governor Walz. And this is Amy Mecca. This is a woman who has been warning. I mean, this lady has been on the front end of warning about the Islamization of our country for years and years and years, and she's paid a price for it. Listen to what she wrote here that Trump was resharing. The Somali state of Minnesota. Minnesota is being systematically transformed. Its people replaced, its cities turned into foreign enclaves, its future rewritten by mass migration and soaring immigrant birth rates, all by design. 130,000 new arrivals last year, tens of thousands from Somalia, Ethiopia, and Mexico. Migrant birth rates soaring while native Minnesotans flee. Crime, welfare abuse, and Islamic influence exploding. Minneapolis already holds the largest Somali population in the United States, a hub for Sharia push and radical recruitment. You can see it on display at the Somali Culture and Music Night held this weekend. So if you watched the show yesterday, I mean, we showed you many of these videos. It does not mean that every single one of those people is horrible. But if you're bringing in people who have a wildly different set of view, who only want to stay in their own little enclave, who don't want to be part of the melting pot, et cetera, over time, that literally will break down the entire system. Right? That is what will actually destroy America. America is not going to be destroyed because some rockets flew into Chicago, right? That's not going to happen. It's not going to be destroyed in a military sense that way, but it could be destroyed bottom up, that you would bring in a whole bunch of people, the culture would collapse, we'd be at each other's throats. Next thing you know, all the women are in beekeeper costumes. Look at this from N-Wokeness. Kwanli Ibram abducted a 12-year-old in Minnesota and raped her. St. Paul Islamic Center wrote a letter of community support saying he has not assimilated into non-Somali culture. So again, do you want these people? Was this guy vetted properly? I don't know. Where did this guy come from? Was he vetted properly? Who did they call? You know, this guy, he's interested in raping 12-year-old girls. You get it. Here is a Somali woman. This was going viral yesterday, talking about how she doesn't feel safe in Minnesota because of Trump, although a lot of people in her community are committing fraud.
I'm not comfortable sometimes because when I drive, when I'm sitting somewhere, not comfortable like before.
She says the president's recent focus on the Somali community is unnerving.
What he said, we've affected all communities. We know some people, they make fraud, but not all.
Late Thursday night, President Trump used a slur for people with intellectual disabilities to describe Governor Tim Walz.
All right, first off, again, as a child of the 80s, a Gen X guy here, no one means retarded as in making fun of someone with mental handicap. It was just a thing we said about stupid people, and I think it's applicable to what's going on today. Now, as to what that woman said, lady, assuming you are legal, you actually don't have anything to worry about unless you're involved in some sort of, I don't know, terrorist organization or something like that. But it is interesting that you said you know some people involved in fraud, but not all. That sounds like she knows like quite a bit of fraud people. Have you reported any of the fraud people? I don't know, maybe called in the fact that I think your representative probably, Ilhan Omar, married her brother for immigration purposes. That sounds like fraud. And Minnesota, it's getting crazy. You thought Dearborn was like the home of the insanity, but listen to this coming out of Minnesota. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison caught on tape pledging to help Somali fraudsters in exchange for campaign donations. And Elon Musk retweeted that, and he said outright criminal fraud. That's the Attorney General. You know what the Attorney General is? He's like top lawyer, right? So the top lawyer of Minnesota was involved basically in a bribery scheme. So where are we? Have I taken a breath on today's show? Maybe it's the fumes that are getting to me. Where are we at this point? Let's do a little Rubin Report reset. Things are a little wacky at the moment. But guys, as I always say, as Ron DeSantis says, decline is a choice. It does not have to be this way. We've let it go a little too far, and it's going to be on all of the sane people, that includes you watching this, to fix this thing. And I think one of the ways we fix it is to realize that we had something precious, right? We really did have something precious, and there are pockets of America that still have that precious thing. But we want to get that precious thing to scale again, right? Right now, stupidity, retardation, jihadism, communism, that's what's scaling. But how about we get decency to scale again? I saw this video a couple days ago. This is more like the type of video we would end the show with, but I think it'll set up this next segment nicely. This is from 1965, and this is at a supermarket. They're talking about how they had to go about doing business in America when things were, let's say, a little less complicated.
The first order of business is to greet the customer. Then comes an important moment of caution. Is the bottom of the cart empty? I always make certain there are no missed items that might get through unchecked. There's no such thing as an almost right in this business. If I overcharge, I cheat the customer. If I undercharge, I'm unfair to the store. Fractions mean you charge the next penny. Dropping the fraction can be costly. It might well represent the entire profit on this order.
Okay, so I think you're going to see why I'm playing that. I love showing those old things because I think it does help remind us of the way things kind of used to be. And it doesn't mean that everything was freaking perfect in 1965. But like the idea that they were putting out public service announcements where, first off, it was an honorable job to work at a grocery store, which of course it still is, right? And then you have the woman, and she's concerned about not only the customer, making sure they don't forget something, but also concerned about her boss and the company and the store, that no one's going to cheat from them, and talking about the fraction of the penny and all of those things. And that was the exchange of things, right? Imagine that woman with her beautiful Aquanet hair and everything else. Imagine that woman working at a Best Buy these days during a Summer of Love month. And she's standing at the register and some kid's running out with the 57-inch plasma and the LED and I'm starving, I need a PlayStation. Like she'd be pissed, that lady. She would not be very, very happy. So the choice is we can either have something like that where we're kind of all decent people and we're a little different in our own little way, but we all believe in the idea of the system, right? We can either do that or we could do this.
Into our studio, this is Patrick Tyson. According to investigators, Tyson poured alcohol on the floor and couch where a woman was sitting and then set it on fire. The victim told police Tyson demanded she bring him a beer and threatened to set her on fire if she didn't. When the alcohol ignited, her shirt caught fire, but authorities say it burned off. However, she was not too badly injured in that, thankfully.
Well, at least she wasn't badly injured. But I think you see the point, guys. We can keep doing these crazy stories. Believe me, there's a plethora of these types of things where random people try to burn people, urinate on them, throw them over the subway, inject them with weird stuff, rape the sister. We can do all these things. Or we could, be more like the lady who was like, I want to make sure that you get all your groceries, and I also want to make sure that the boss man gets paid. Like, which seems better? I want to show you this. We showed you this the other day, but I think it's worth noting as we're talking about all of this. These are three beautiful young women who are no longer with us, and what you're seeing below in this, and in some sense, this doesn't have anything to do with skin color. This has everything to do with culture. The three men who murdered those three women, 125 combined arrests. So decline is a choice. The judges who look at the rap sheets and then, oh, well, you've been in jail 18 times. You did try to burn that woman alive. Let him out one more time. I got a tea time in a half hour. I can't deal with this shit. Like, enough. And you know what also happens when you do all these bad things? You put an insane strain on the good people in the system. And there are good people in the system, our law enforcement agents and our ICE agents. There are plenty of good people trying to do a good job. There was this guy, Damian James Madison, who was a 27-year-old who shot a deputy's car in Washington. And we showed you this video, this is from a couple weeks ago, where here's now the sheriff talking about how many times they had arrested and pursued this guy. And it's like, we are making, this is the good guy. The guy we are about to show you is the good guy, and look how difficult we are making his job while we are releasing people who are killing beautiful young women.
He's got a felony warrant out of Thurston County Sheriff's Office because this is the third time we've pursued this individual in 6 months. So the last time I talked about him, I actually specifically stated that if the judges don't start taking this seriously, that someone's going to get hurt or killed. And here we are, shooting at the police. So maybe they'll take it more serious this time, but I'm not confident. Yeah, it's hard to believe this is going to end peacefully.
Okay, so you have good guys that are trying to do the right thing, but imagine you're a police officer. So imagine you're a police officer in New York City right now, right? That was in Washington, but imagine you're a police officer in New York City right now. Tren de Aragua is back. You're a sanctuary city. You know about the drugs, you know about the crime. You know that if you arrest someone, they're just going to be sent back out again. Over time, you will no longer be good at your job, and it won't be your fault. There will be no point in doing your job. And that's why the New York City Police Department, which is way bigger than most armies in the world, literally, in terms of membership and the amount of people that are in those uniforms, that's why they're bleeding membership right now. That's why they're dropping standards, physical and mental standards, because they can't get the good guys anymore, right? They can't get people to do it anymore. Those guys are getting a bonus now in Florida. They're coming down. DeSantis has given $5,000 bonuses to well-qualified New York City police officers to come down here. So the red-blue divide is we're getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and they're getting weaker, and it's by their own choosing. Of course, another place that this is happening is Chicago, and Brandon Johnson, who is the mayor there, who simply, can I get the numbers on how many black people were shot and killed this weekend? He simply does not care how many people get killed on his streets. He only cares about going after Trump. Here he explains that jailing people is just racist.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down.
You know, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna really try. You might be right at some extent that we jail too many people. Maybe we do have to rethink overall jailing, but not as it comes to shooting people and raping people and the violent crimes. Like, there's not much more you can do with that. Is it possible we're jailing too many people on certain petty crimes or white collar crimes that you can maybe get more community service out of them? Or, I don't know, maybe something, but that's obviously not what he's talking about. One thing he's not talking about also is that 11 people were shot in Chicago this past weekend, 3 killed. You're not going to know any of their names because it was likely black people shooting black people, and that doesn't fit their narrative. Nayib Bukele, who is the president of El Salvador, which was once the most violent place in the world, which is now basically the safest country in the Western world. He saw Brandon Johnson talking about that you can't incarcerate your way out of violence. And he wrote this with charts. Those are charts. He said, you can literally incarcerate your way out of violence. That's precisely why incarceration exists in the first place. And again, that's the signal. The signal. What signal is Brandon Johnson saying to people in Chicago right now? He sees the mayhem there. And the thing that he is sending out to people is, we're not even interested in jailing you, right? versus what's going on in El Salvador. Well, they had a massive drug problem. They had a massive gang-related violence program. They had so many problems that the gangs, and I've been there a couple times, before it got cleaned up, and I had to, my brother-in-law was doing some volunteer work there, and we had to stay in a barbed wire, highly secure place. That's where basically anyone, if you were American or just not from there, you had to stay in absurdly secure area, and you were told not to walk out and everything else because the gangs were running the streets. They were literally going to homes and they would just kick people out of their homes and then take the home. There was no police to do anything. They finally fixed that, but they did it by incarcerating people. It's not because it's not because you want to jail everybody. It's because if you don't do that, you end up punishing the good people. And that is exactly what is about to happen in New York City. Phoenix, scroll up for me a little bit here. Moron Zamboni, the incoming mayor of New York City, who is a communist with a little bit of jihad on the side. Here he is saying that he told Trump that ICE raids are cruel and inhumane, although he's gonna have to suck it up because they're coming.
When I met with the president, I made very clear that these kinds of raids are cruel and inhumane, that they are raids that do nothing to serve the interests of public safety, and that my responsibility is to be the mayor to each and every person that calls this city their home. And that includes millions of immigrants, of which I am one.
But you're not an illegal immigrant, you fucktard. That's better than retard. Fucktard, that's what I'm gonna say from now on. The way they conflate this and that they can never make the distinction between legal and illegal. Look, it shows, the fact that you're a citizen of the United States shows that our vetting process is not proper, right? Okay, fine. But going in, if your job, as you say, is to do the best for the people of New York City, you should be doing the best for the legal people of New York City. And that Bernie, that fucking useless old windbag, that he sits there nodding along. Bernie, you've got 3 houses. Offer one to some illegal immigrants. I'm sure some Tren de Aragua people would love to get out of the winter in New Hampshire and go to your summer home somewhere. Like, get cracking, man. But what were Bernie and Zohran doing together? Well, they were out there picketing Starbucks. That's right, because apparently bitter, dark coffee is not something that socialists are into. Listen to this. Starbucks CEO, this is from Zohran himself, Starbucks CEO Brian Nicole made $95 million last year. His workers are striking for the bare minimum. Glad to be on the right side of the picket line with them. Now, this is interesting. Leave that up for a second, Connor, because he's saying the workers of Starbucks are striking for the bare minimum. Well, we did a little checking, and it turns out that the workers at Starbucks, they get an awful lot. They have I'm going to show you some of this. I'm not going to read all of this, but they have some of the best benefits in the country for a corporation like this. They have a 401k with 100% match on the first 5%, which is almost unheard of in retail. They have 100% tuition paid upfront for ASU online bachelor's degrees. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Free drinks every shift, 30% off food merch, weekly markout for coffees and teas. They get free Spotify premium. Like, they get all of these things, but it's the bare minimum. And it's always the bare minimum because you guys just want more. Here is moron and douchebag. It.
Like so many working people across this city, these are not demands of greed. These are demands for decency. These are workers who are simply being asked to be treated with the respect that they deserve.
Okay, so they just want respect and everything else. Now, we already showed you, like, there might be some, and I have no doubt that there's some places that really take advantage of their workers and don't pay them enough and don't give them any benefits, blah, 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 blah. But Starbucks ain't one. What you are doing, obviously, by going after Starbucks, because it is a successful corporation that makes, I actually like Starbucks coffee. I like kind of darker, I know it's a little bitter for some people, but I generally like stronger coffee. 33, so the average just barista there is making about $33K, but largely that's a part-time job. It's usually an entry-level thing. But the point is, Starbucks represents capitalism. So the funny part is, I watched that video last night, and we were trying to figure out the show for today, and I'm watching that video, and they're there, we want to be treated fair, and blah, blah, blah. And of course, they want more money and all these things. And I was like, you know what, Joseph, I have no doubt it exists. Can you find me some video of a robot making coffee somewhere because all of these people are about to be replaced. And not only did we find one, we found one from Starbucks. Here is Starbucks in South Korea. Robots, enjoy.
Here we go.
I like that song. We could put that on the Rubin Report party playlist. A little funk, yeah. So Starbucks right now in South Korea, 1,000 of those robots exist, and they only need 2 people to tend to them. So they can make the drinks, they can deliver the drinks and everything else. So you idiots, and for years we've been talking about this. You guys keep demanding that we artificially inflate salaries. Pay people $25 an hour. And then what happens? Burger King replaces them with iPads. They literally lose their job. Businesses close because they cannot afford to do it. Now you can make some argument that does that guy need $95 million a year? I don't know. Well, it's not my right to say how much someone is worth, right? But you guys are artificially trying to inflate wages, and then what is going to happen? You're doing it, it's dumb even if robots weren't here. It doesn't really make sense. But to the point that we are on the verge of the robots and AI replacing so many people, you guys are trying to actually accelerate it. And the reason you want to accelerate the destruction is because you want to use the destruction as proof that capitalism doesn't work, even though that's not the case. What you might want to do, Bernie and Moron, is instead of trying to burn everything down and tell us how bad capitalism is and how awful America is and how bad policing is and blah, 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 you might want to start building things, like actually provide value to people, because that is what inspires. That is what creates. I know that's not your thing, but you might want to try that. And here is Elon Musk on, well, that.
You know, if you want to create something valuable financially, you don't pursue that. It's best to actually pursue providing useful products and services. If you do that, then money will come as a natural consequence of that, as opposed to pursuing money directly. Just like you can't sort of pursue happiness directly, you pursue things that lead to happiness. But there's not like direct happiness pursued. You do things like, I guess, fulfilling work or study or friends, loved ones, that as a result make you happy.
You know, it's so interesting. He's doing a sort of Jordan Peterson version of what Jordan does at the psychological level. He's doing at the economic level, that you don't pursue happiness. You do things that basically provide value. You do things that are meaningful, and then you might become happy on the other side. Just pursuing happiness doesn't do anything. Right? And that's why, it's exactly why all of these people, these masked morons and these Hamas brigade idiots, it's why they are so miserable. It's why they never build anything. They're only interested in destroying things. And it's a deeply, from the Jordan perspective, it's a psychological thing. But what Elon is talking about there is that if you want to be in essence, you want to be on the adventure of life, go start doing some stuff. And then the hate, the desire to destroy, the endless desire to be out there boycotting Starbucks, which is actually doing good, doing right by people like you, it will flit away because you will have some meaning in your life. Another way to look at this is see what other good people who are creating things are doing. So this is a little lengthy, but I think it is worth reading all this because it's spectacular. There's a guy named Breezy on X who put this up. He said, "Be Shayne Coplan." We will tell you a bit about Shayne Coplan in just a moment, but look at this. So Shayne Coplan, who is now on the front cover. There he is as a kid. He's probably, 14 years old. There he is now. He is the prince of prediction who runs Polymarket. We'll have more on that in a second. And look at this. Look at his track record. It's a lot of bullet points. Emailed the SEC at age 14 asking how to create new marketplaces. He didn't get a response. He showed up uninvited at Genius HQ at 16 and he got hired. He went to New York University. He then dropped out. You thought we were going to get you on that one. Try a bunch of crypto projects. Realized that none work. Still keep building. Launch Polymarket in 2020 to fix misinformation. transformation. The first market is, when does New York City reopen? Expand into politics, sports, culture, volume explodes. Regulators enter the chat. CFTC fines him $1.4 million and blocks users in 2022. The FBI raids his apartment in 2024. It seizes some devices. The media calls it unregistered gambling. He calls it political. Investigation dropped in 2024. He then acquires a CFTC licensed exchange. 1 week later, Polymarket suddenly on track for full U.S. launch. Shayne walks in wearing a t-shirt and jeans and a bagel bag. Spreacher tries to buy Polymarket on the spot. ICE invests $2 billion for 25% in October of 2025. The valuation jumps to $9 billion. The college dropout becomes a billionaire at 27. The blue-eyed, mop-haired kid versus the New York Stock Exchange. American Innovation Picture. That's the one we just showed you. Billionaires pile in. Polymarket partners with NHL, UFC, DraftKings, Google Finance, and Yahoo Finance integrate. PM data, Polymarket data. Prediction markets become mainstream overnight. Critics call it unregulated gambling loophole. Supporters call it next Wall Street. Institutions prepping to plug Polymarket data into indices. 5 years after founding, 1 year after FBI raid, stands in front of the New York Stock Exchange, watches a giant Polymarket banner rise against all odds. Like, how about you try that? Kid who's out there protesting Starbucks, who probably doesn't even work at Starbucks. How about you get a job so you have something to do during the day and start thinking anyone can do anything in life? That's the secret. That's the fucking secret. Here's Shayne Coplan telling Anderson Cooper about how great it is to have a company that has a $9 billion valuation.
What valuation now has Polymarket been given?
$9 billion post-money valuation.
$9 billion. Did you anticipate that?
I mean, I didn't start it to not get here, you know?
Shayne Coplan is now a billionaire, at least on paper. And Polymarket, it still hasn't made any profit. It gives away its main product, its predictions, for free, and doesn't charge fees on trades.
Okay, so look, we can talk all about their business model, and there's a difference between $9 billion on paper and having it in the bank and all of those things. But the point is, the kid who was nobody doing nothing, which is what most people start as, he had a dream, he pushed, he saw the way the winds were blowing, he decided to do something, and the market found value in that. And that is how you build. And then he can go on to the real adventure, which is what Jordan and Elon are talking about. Then you can go on and find happiness because you started doing something valuable. And then the connections that will be made throughout your life and the world will be literally mind-blowing. And I can tell you that from my own experience. Here he is watching the Polymarket banner rise at the New York Stock Exchange. Man, even without Sinatra singing in the background, My Way, it's probably my favorite song. You got to get the lyrics from Sinatra. That is what the American dream is all about. And I can tell you guys, a smaller version of that is that when I started Locals, I saw a problem in the market, right? I saw censorship from big tech. I wanted to create something that would allow creators to have a one-on-one relationship with their audience without having to go through big tech. We created something for me. We then spun it off for a few other creators. We got some investment. It took years and years. There were years, 2020 and 2021, I was doing way more work trying to build Locals than I could even for the show. And there was no profit. There was no money to be made. There was no salary that I took. I was putting in my own money, and it was blood, sweat, and tears. And half the time, I'd spend literally 8 hours a day, Zoom call, trying to raise funds for something, having no idea if it was ever going to work. And then eventually, not only did it start working, but then we merged with Rumble, and then Rumble went public, and I was able to be at NASDAQ as that button was pushed. It's a slightly smaller version of that, but it's because we created something with value. I didn't just sit there and bitch and moan and complain and pick at Starbucks. I went out and did something, and you can do that too. Speaking of doing cool things, I'm going to Mar-a-Lago tonight because there is a PragerU event that I will be doing with Glenn Beck and my old friend Larry Elder, who I have not seen in a year or two, and I'm very excited for that. So the three of us will be talking. I think there'll probably be a few other people there. So who knows? Maybe someone watching this will be there. So we'll do an abbreviated post-game show, and then we'll see everybody else tomorrow. RubinReport.locals.com. 30 seconds. Ciao.